7 o'clock tonight, September 18th, 2023, for our September meeting. Let us please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I've never been that close to the flag. Really? Saying the pledge.
Okay, Clerk Trapp, could you please call the roll?
Bartholomew.
Here.
Edwards.
Here.
Fowler.
Yes.
Kerr.
Yes.
Parker.
Present.
Rosso.
Here.
President Poznanski.
Here.
We have all 7 present.
Okay, let us move into the approval of the agenda. Do we have an approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Kerr, second by Fowler.
Could we add cemetery to unfinished business?
Cemetery.
C, D, E, F, under unfinished cemetery.
Nolan, can you restate your motion then with that addition?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of unfinished business F cemetery.
Do you still support Fowler?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And then I'd like to add under that, vendor activity report,
What activity?
vendor activity.
So G.
G. I'll amend my original motion to include G, vendor report.
As I
Second.
say, hold on till it, let's just see how it everyone. Anything else?
Second.
Okay. Now you can call the roll.
Oh, okay. Whoops, who did it? Kerr and Fowler. Kerr.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Bartholomew.
Yes.
Edwards.
Yes.
Rosso.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
President Poznanski.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
We move into our approval of the minutes from August 21st.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Bartholomew, second by Rousseau. Do we have any discussion?
I just have a quick question. At the end, it has our meeting adjourned at 10:48.
Oh,
I-
Oh, yeah.
nope.
9:48?
9.
Maybe.
9:48. I can
9:48,
make that
okay.
adjustment before posting.
I don't remember being here that long.
I
Yeah,
know, I
yeah.
didn't either.
Motion to go past. Good catch.
Okay.
Okay, the motion with corrections.
Nate?
Yes, motion with corrections.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any opposed? There are none opposed. Okay, moving into our bills. We have 2 sets of bills. One in the amount of $633,074.74 and $23,583.73. Do we have a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make the motion to pay the bills as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Edwards, second by Parker. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, could you please call the roll, though?
Yes. Edwards.
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
President Poznanski.
Yes.
Rosso.
Yes.
Kerr.
Yes.
Fowler.
Yes.
Bartholomew.
Yes,
Motion carries 7-0.
Now, quick question, Trustee Rousseau, is this the vendor report from this portion that you want to talk about? Is it specific to this? I'm just-
No, it's
Oh,
the one
okay.
towards the back.
I was to tell everyone to pull it out
Oh,
while we're
no.
here.
Mhm.
Okay. We do not have any presentations or correspondence, so that moves us into our public comment time. This is the time, go ahead, when anybody may address the floor, come up to the podium. You have 3 minutes. We will be keeping the timer. This is the time to address the council. There will be, after this, no other public comment or public interaction with the council.
Good evening, Board. I have a question, I actually have 2 questions for you. I was at the last board meeting in July, and I'm speaking of the green space on Sisson Street. That was voted to make a park, and I'm just wondering what happened from that last board meeting to September's board meeting, because I understand that the vote was rescinded. The task force that was on it was eliminated. They knew nothing about it. They never got a thank you for all the hard work that they've done, which I think is very disappointing. So I guess I'm coming to you to ask you, what actually has transpired from July until tonight? And any board member can speak, please.
Well, it's customary during public comment that the board does not interact or answer questions. We don't want you to come up here and feel intimidated that we're going to keep coming at you with things.
No,
So
I'm
that
just
is
trying to get
something we
clarity.
can address and can be answered, but
Uh-huh.
at public comment time, we're not going to answer.
So how do I get my answers?
I can either put it in a report for next month, or we can talk. I can email, meet,
With you? Or anybody on
or
the board?
anybody, yeah.
Okay, so I don't, so I have no, I'm leaving and I don't even have any answers, is that correct?
It's public, yes. It's public comment, so you can throw out your question and we can get you an answer.
Okay, those are my answers.
Evening.
Okay,
Hi.
Richard, welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, I'm Richard D'Amato. My family and I live in Romeo, and we're very happy to be part of the community. We married in Michigan and lived at the Patton Manor condos on Main Street. We've enjoyed all the parades and opened 2 art galleries. We moved our home to First Street 1 year ago this week. Many cars on Main Street appear to be exceeding 30 miles an hour. In other places I've lived, if you stepped into a crosswalk, cars must stop or are ticketed. In Romeo, you actually risk your life. I'm 72 years old, have driven since I'm 16. In 56 years, I've had 2 car accidents, both caused by speeding tailgaters not stopping for traffic. I've taken numerous professional driving courses and driven on tracks throughout the country. The first thing they all teach you is how to stop and do it very quickly. It takes diligent repetition and effective learning to brake hard and do it correctly. The internet states the average person driving 25 miles an hour takes 40 to 45 feet to stop. That person driving at 40 miles an hour takes 118 to 120 feet to stop. They're not trained, and their minds do not react as quickly. They often hurt and kill people. The posted speed limit of 53 east to west on St. Clair is 35 miles an hour. The posted limit within Romeo on Main Street is 30 miles an hour. The posted limit off Benjamin Street south onto Sisson towards the school is 25 and then 15. Our car satellite computers confirm all of these above for all of these streets. However, we see no posted signs leaving Main Street going west towards our homes, off Tilson, Pleasant, Benjamin, First Street, or any of them. These streets all bring in cars, delivery trucks, traffic past our children, friends taking walks, and pets. I've not yet studied going east. I haven't had time. We were told the village streets were all 25 miles an hour. Our same car computer does show some parts occasionally at 25. More often, all of these streets are 30 to 35 miles per hour on your car monitor, or they show blankly, which is possibly due to the trees. Where is the 25 mile per hour speed limit posted in the village of Romeo, where we live? Nowhere. We are prepared to make a donation and help raise funds for these signs. We hope we can make and do more together. I'm out of sequence. Uh-oh, sorry. I did that. Okay. I'm running out of time then. If you want to talk further, or you simply want a T-shirt to be a walking sign, like myself, please call the RJD Gallery with your size, and I'll get it for you.
You have 30 seconds.
Thank you for your time and your 3 minutes. All lives are precious.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bobby Chambers, and I live on Brook Drive near Sisson Park. I have a few questions or comments that I'd like to approach to some of the boards. Megan, first of all, you got the ball rolling on the original sale of that lot. Many villagers were excited to make a green space in Romeo. Now you've dumped the task force to the curb, and I'm just wondering, did you use the lot as a ploy to get people to vote for you? Shelley, you chose to be on the Parks Task Force. You voted, yet you voted not to support the task force. when it came to questions rising here and votes rising here at the board meetings. I wonder if you ever even cared, or if you just had a hidden agenda. Mark Clark, you did warn the board that if they made the lot into a park, that they would need the community, a community vote to sell it. You made sure of that back in July. And if that's the case, should it not be the community vote to rescind the park status back to a lot status again? To the board in general, you're the decision makers of Romeo. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. To dismantle the task force is one thing, but no one had the decency or the courtesy to send the committee a letter, an email, a text, or even just a call to let them know that it was dismantled and to thank them for their time and effort that they put into the task force. This whole scenario has left a bad taste in my mouth for Romeo politics. For me, I can say that I'll never trust your system of politics again.
Do we have anybody else for public comment?
Hi, my name is Connie Rivard, and I'm also here about the Sisson lot. I'm sure you all remember that I was the one that actually came and approached before you guys, Megan, you were not on the board, and a couple of you weren't on it at the time, but it was when Christina was on here. I approached, called the village, asked for why could we not have more green space in Romeo as opposed to whatever, parking lots, whatever, you know. So it was presented. I had, everybody supported it that night. A vote of 7 of you said, yep, that's great. A couple of you came and approached me afterwards and wanted to be part of that task force we weren't a task force at that time, trying to get the park approved. Megan, I wasn't aware that you came around to people that lived on Brook and solicited them about the lot was up for sale and wanted it to become a park. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. That's how I became involved to try to get it to become a park. Elections came, that board was gone. We started all over again. I found out while I was away for the winter that we now have a task force, and I became part of that with Clark overseeing that task force. I questioned every month something was not adding up, why we could not get answers to the questions I asked. I thought, Megan, you were the driving factor, not interested in it, and I just didn't know what was going on. When I was here in July and it got passed, I wanted to personally call you, but other things came up to thank you for following and being truthful to your word that you made it a park. Next month I found out it was going to be rescinded. They tried to vote. It was tie. It didn't pass. It is still listed as a park. Now I want answers, whether you can't give them to me tonight, but you will give them to me. What is going on with that lot?
30 seconds.
I'm sorry, what?
30 seconds.
Okay, that's it. That's all I have to say, but my conversation will not end tonight.
My name is Clark Stahl. I live at 380 Brook in Romeo. I stand here tonight as a former volunteer, but more importantly, as a troubled Romeo resident. My comments are meant as constructive criticism regarding the handling of the Romeo Citizen Task Force. We worked for 7 months on this, made a presentation on the 17th of July, and it was approved. And at that time, we mentioned that it was we had divided Romeo into 4 sections, and the park was just going to be 1 section. And we made a recommendation to make it a park, and it passed. But our liaison voted no. And during that 7 months, she attended all our meetings and never once made any comments about that. Even one of the other trustees showed up and made some positive comments. After approving it as a park, we invited the village president to our next meeting so we could discuss moving forward. She canceled. Unbeknownst to us, on the July 27th, she went to the Parks and Rec and asked them to take over, 10 days after we approved it. I found out about it through a message she sent, because I'm also chair on another task force. She sent a message to that task force, or committee, saying she'd turned it over to Parks and Rec. By the way, we don't even have representation on that. But at no time did she give the common courtesy of talking to us about anything. She went behind our backs. At our August meeting, I was going to bring up the situation because I have strong financial recommendations to the tune of about $65,000 plus that was going to be donated to make this a park. We also had a
30
landscaping advisor that was going to do work for nothing to develop it. But the village president pulled the rug out from underneath us, and again, no common courtesy was left. Didn't even give the chair a chance at the meeting that when they voted it, to disband it, a chance to speak when I tried to. I've got 2 questions. Is this the way you treat residents and volunteers? I mean, this smacks of what the last board president did. I don't understand it. This was going to be a value-added item to the
Time.
community. Turns out that didn't turn out.
3 minutes, Mr. Stowe.
No common courtesy. I've got one question that nobody else wants to, everybody talks about, but nobody else wants to ask. Who got paid off?
Hello, everybody. I am Betty Cassidy at 356 on Benjamin. I was just throwing out an idea I had heard from somewhere else about public comments in the beginning and near the end of the meetings, because we tend to sit here and we stew all month, or we forget to ask you guys questions through email or phone calls. But if we have a second public comment, it might lessen the amount of outbursts, because we can hold on to our comments until the end, or we'll just forget about it. And that's it. The rest, I'm going to send in an email.
Thanks, Betty.
Do we have any more public comment? Okay, hearing none, we close the public comment time. Let us move into our officers' reports. Clerk Trapp, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay.
I wanted to say thank you to DPW and the Police Department for another successful Peach Festival. Also, thank you to the DDA for helping me with communicating about vendor permits throughout the DDA district. I have been starting to get some refund checks from AT&T for the phone lines that we are no longer using. We are in the middle of the time frame it takes to shut down the phone lines we no longer use, and I'm working on getting more refunds back to us. The audit prep is still moving along. The state of Michigan has come up with new reporting items, yay, that I have been working on with the accountants. Thank you to the police department, DPW, and wastewater for helping me and the accountants with some of those items so far. Cemetery board had had a meeting today at 3 o'clock here. They're happy to announce that tomorrow the bid package for the road repair project will be published, and all interested bids are due back to the village on October 4th for a bid opening. Our next meeting is Wednesday, October 18th, and we discussed today, October 29th, which is, I believe is a Sunday, is National Visit a Cemetery Day. Thank you.
Okay, is Caroline here? No? No, okay, so no treasurer report. I'll move into president report. Oh, let's see. Starting with our road construction. Our Phase 1 and 2 have been successfully completed, and our restoration work will be ongoing through Phase 3 and for about 2 to 3 weeks after that. Phase 3 has curbs poured, and the roads are milled. This week, the focus with our contractor is on grading, and then as soon as we're done with that, we get to have our first course of asphalt, followed by the finished product. We have Phase 3 meeting update this week, where we will go over where we are to date a little further. For striping, we're finally finished up with all the road striping. TM&T was able to come in right after Phase 1 was finished the next day in order to stripe, so that we could have all the parking spaces great and ready for Peach Fest. In regards to DDA as the liaison there, they held their first town hall meeting last Monday prior to their regularly scheduled board meeting. The focus of this was their Q4 promotions and marketing, and I was sent a short email from their chair, Andrea St. Laurent, in which she says, the Romeo DDA has held their first town hall meeting with much success. Over 15 businesses and organizations were represented to discuss Q4 activities taking place in the village and to provide content for the DDA to use their resources to promote these events. There was also discussion on how the events can continue to promote each other by keeping lines of communication and using a promote it forward mindset to use each event to promote the next event. The DDA will also help to navigate hurdles to allow for ease of events. We look forward to our next town hall in January. Fall event promotions are asked to be turned in no later than September 22nd, and winter events no later than October 22nd. More information is available at the DDA website, and you can reach out to Andrea at ASTLAURENT, that's A St. Laurent at romeodda.org. Further into the DDA, they have wrapped up their Music in the Park summer concert series and have a thank you out to the Romeo Masons for hosting on the many unfortunate rain-out evenings. Their director, McLeod, presented the idea of painting art on our local electrical boxes around town. The board was in support of this idea and asked for her to pursue it further. The Employment Committee received over 40 applications for their open position, and they will review the submissions and present the board with the final picks in the coming months. They are still looking for responses to their promotions RFP and looking forward to the annual Art and Wine Walk and all the fall activities. Around Village Hall, we have received a generous donation of a beautiful oak desk and want to say thank you to the Stiegler family for this gift. Also, we are set to get new artwork up in the village. Thank you to Sue Michaels for allowing us the opportunity to show off your beautiful talent on our walls. This is a project in conjunction with Starkweather Art Society. Regarding the Prospect Street property, I currently have no updates to report. I have not received any communication or information regarding that since our last meeting. In Bruce Township, I was able to attend and assist with the Veterans Memorial ribbon cutting there. I want to say congratulations to Bruce Township on this beautiful memorial, and thank you to Mr. Melton for ensuring that this space is there to visit and reflect. With our tree board, they have adjusted their meeting night, and it will now meet the second Tuesday of the month. I'm unable to make Tuesday evening meetings due to prior commitments, so Trustee Rousseau has agreed to step in as the board liaison for that tree board. I have a few congratulations. One to the Northern Macomb, okay, it's a mouthful. Northern Macomb Regional Chamber of Commerce, to us formerly known as the Greater Romeo Washington Chamber of Commerce. Their coverage has expanded, and they will now be encompassing the village of Armada, Armada Township, Bruce Township, Lenox Township, Ray Township, the city of Richmond, and still our village of Romeo in Washington. Also, a congratulations to L&L Products. They were able to have the ribbon cutting ceremony this past Friday, the 15th, for their expansion. And I was able to attend as the representation for the village and also hand out our first ever Spirit of Romeo Award. And speaking of, I introduced to you the Spirit of Romeo Award. This is an award that will be handed out from the village office, and it will be on behalf of the Village of Romeo to those who embody the quote-unquote spirit of Romeo through their efforts in our village. This gives us an opportunity to not only shine a spotlight on deserving individuals or businesses, but to also thank them for the difference that they are making in our village. In regards to the Village Park rededication, we had our ribbon cutting and rededication last night, September 17th. We were able to commemorate commemorate the dedication, and Scarlet Heart was able to get in a few songs before the storm blew in, unfortunately. The village was honored to receive a commemorative certificate from our local resident, Emily Mellitz, on behalf of Governor Whitmer, congratulating us on enhancing the community and providing a space of beauty, recreation, and unity. I will be sure to get it framed and up in our village hall for all to enjoy and see. And then, Peach Fest. Congratulations to our Romeo Lions for another successful Peach Fest in the books. And a big thank you to our police and DPW who work tirelessly the whole weekend. They don't ever get vacations on that holiday or get to spend it with their families. And they ensure that we are all safe, our visitors are safe, and that our town is clean and presentable for everybody who comes here that weekend. So if I can literally have a thank you to our police and our DPW. The village was selected for 2 interviews with Channel 4 during their coverage of the event, so we thank the Romeo Lions for thinking of our downtown and giving us the opportunity to shed the spotlight there on all the great things going on throughout the weekend. Oh, and just for the record, not that anyone's keeping score, of course, though, regarding the cornhole rematch that I had with the New Haven President Messin, let's just say that's Romeo 2, New Haven 0. And that's all. Okay, we'll move into our trustee reports. Nathan, do you want to start down at your end?
I just wanted to give a shout out to our department, police department. People were parking in fire lanes like all over the place. And the guys were out there quickly writing tickets and the cars were moving, and also to the DPW every morning cleaning up. It was great. And they all kept the water going. Thanks, Al.
Nothing here.
Nothing. So, Parker?
Nothing.
Fowler?
Over the weekend, or Labor Day weekend, I met with County Commissioner Don Brown, and we had a great conversation regarding the Trailside Park and possibly doing a collaborative with the village. So he's going to contact our president and our board and see what we can come up with at that point.
Nolan, I'm sorry. Here.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to thank the Park Task Force for all their work they did over the past 7 months. It was a lot. It was hectic. I know there might be some confusion, and if I'm able to use my trustee report as a time to maybe clarify that. So Megan had in her president report last month, before the rescinded vote happened, that she was able to inform the Parks and Rec Commission that the village had designated the Sisson Street lot a park. And she was asking the Parks and Rec Commission to consider taking that development and care underneath their wing. And just going back in the minutes here in unfinished business, there was a motion to reconsider that vote for the park. I believe we have 30 days from the initial vote to rescind that. And there was a motion by Fowler, second by Russo, to reconsider, and it tied 3-3 and it did not go through, meaning that that park is still designated a park. That did not change. And now that the 30 days has passed, that would have to go to a vote on the election ballot to reconsider that or to ever sell that property. So as it sits now, that's still a park. That's all.
Okay, moving into our committee reports.
Planning or,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I could have done it with trustee, but, Planning Commission, we, looked at the use of, public spaces, trying to tighten up that ordinance a little bit with the use of the sidewalks. Looked at the fencing permit language. There's been some concerns with, fencing and growth of stuff on the corner lots. And then we're still looking at a flagpole ordinance. So we'll be seeing those soon. That's it.
And we're continuing to look at the other ones, aren't we? Isn't she going to come back with something about the corner fences and the corner lots?
Yeah, we're still looking at the fencing.
Okay. Okay, now moving into our committee reports. Our crosswalk project, we have a report in here tonight if we want to talk about it when we get there. With the fire and ALS contract, we have met as a subcommittee and discussed a little further negotiations, and we have an upcoming meeting with Bruce Township in a couple weeks. Is it next Tuesday, I believe?
I believe so, yes.
And so that's ongoing. That contract doesn't end till next year, so we're starting it early in order to have back and forth and get where we need to be. With the Parks and Rec lease, we officially received a letter. Clerk Trapp, do you recall? I feel like it was the day after our last meeting. We received it in the mail. So they have officially asked in writing, such as the contract asked, to end the lease for this building, for this space. Not the whole thing, just this room, or this building. And asking to rent the space back there and behind these doors to store some items, and that they would like the agreement to end effective January 1. They felt like that was a clean break, and everybody's timeline giving us time to get where we need to be. So that's where that is. They had a few requests for us regarding the lease. Our Parks and Rec committee met. I turned those over to Mr. Clark. He had a few extra questions, so I requested of the Parks and Rec Commission if they would allow attorneys to talk through things so that we don't all continue to have to meet and go through items. So that's where that is at. And once Mr. Clark writes that up, we'll reset our subcommittee again and go over the adjustments there. Okay, moving into our unfinished business, we move into our garbage RFP. This was presented last month. We wanted to table it, come back with a few more calculations. Those were done. The floor is open to discuss.
The priority waste proposal, the 290 at the end of the residential period, I think is the best deal.
Just for residential, or are you looking for them towards central business district?
Well,
too?
we're looking at bulk pickup. I'm not looking at central right now, it's just,
Just
we're gonna go
residential?
individual on this, individual vote for each section. Residential, commercial.
We could, if
Yeah.
that's the way that you guys want to
I know we've been
set up the
happy with
motions.
GFL, just their numbers seem to be far past what we even budgeted for.
So just to add to the conversation so that everyone knows what's in our packets, we have provided the 5-year projection. I pulled out the page that has to do with our budget regarding this line item, so everyone can see the projection for the next 5 years of what we will have in that line, in that fund, considering this is 5-year contract. And also Clerk Trapp went through and found, the last time this was bid out, what the unit pricing was from our current contractor, GFL. That's where we are currently at $675 a unit. And then also a breakdown of the bill so that you can see how it's billed out currently through for the different items. So currently in this budget, where are we, 23? We have $388,348 in our rubbish and garbage collection line item. Clerk Trapp went through and totaled up the years. So year 1 for GFL, just residential, is $396 and change. Waste management is $360 and change, and priority is $258 and change. So that's just residential. And then when you come into CBD, that would be an additional from GFL $23,000. Waste management, kind of 78. It's a little misleading there because there's not a bid for part of it. Is it?
They didn't submit.
No. And then priority is 19,000.
Our priority included recycling for CBD and apartments and multifamily, right? Or multi-unit. That's included, recycling.
Just recycling and multifamily, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
different bid for
Seem to
Central
have the best
Business.
price overall.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with them, though. But they
I know
do
Washington
by
Township
far.
uses Priority.
Do they?
I know it's a local company.
I've heard good things from some people in Washington, residents and also government people that say they haven't had issues. They pick up everything, they come back when needed, they haven't had any concern.
Yeah, I know that from watching the meetings, they had a lot of, at the beginning, they had a lot of problems, but they worked through it pretty good and got it all squared away, so. It was good.
The motion that we go with priority waste.
Support?
In what manner?
For just residential right now?
The residential, the first one here submitted, weekly trash, recycling, bulk items, residential, that's where we,
It's all just residential.
And then the recycling is included. Yep. Across the board.
290, right? 290, 790?
Well, that's where we'll be at in the 5th year. Our current year would be 258.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was, pardon me, that was a motion by Fowler and support. Who was it by?
Bartholomew? Yes.
By Bartholomew?
Yes.
Okay.
For all residential?
Yeah. Do it on the waste, go individually, correct?
That's how you, if you want to make the
Yes.
motion in conjunction, or you guys want to separate it out?
Separating it seems fine.
Okay. Do we have any more discussion for this motion? Okay. Clerk Trapp, could you please call the roll?
Fowler,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
President Poznanski,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Rosso.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, are there any other motions that would like to be made regarding this contract?
No, we just did, I forgot to ask, we did confirm that they would pick up our current large containers, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. So we don't have to buy new ones.
If we have no other motions, then we are just servicing residential. That's
Thank
what-
you, Catherine and Megan, clerk and president, for.
She did most of the work. I
all
can't
the-
take it.
Well,
These
thank
look
you.
really
It was a
good.
lot of details and numbers. Thank you.
God bless Excel formulas.
That is the decision of the board. Moving on to our crosswalk project. I was able to get an official written review. I hope you all had time to read it. I also added in, it was asked, proof of responsibility, essentially. Is it village or DDA? So I dug through history, emails, things that I could find. Everything to me, of which I put in here for you to see, points to the Village of Romeo. Communication was through the village. The village was the signer on everything. The village made the resolution. The village is the one that was granted the grant from SEMCOG. So to me, the DDA joined in this project with us and they shared funds, but I do not see their responsibility in carrying out the project. So.
Has there been any further communication with Rowe in regards to what initially was found by HRC? And are they willing to work with us on any of the corrections that need to happen?
There's been no communication. I've received an email last week from Rowe asking where we're at. That it's been a few months. We said we were doing the review and they're just checking in and they'd like to get this step issue resolved. But I haven't communicated with them because I'm waiting for you guys to see this report and decide where we want to go.
I mean, some of the communication with Rowe and past president Christine Milzon, I mean, it's evident in the emails that stuff was supposed to happen that never took place. Why? I don't know. I guess his explanation of we needed to hurry up and get it done for Peach Fest is not reasonable. to a project of that manner, you know? It shouldn't have mattered, we should have done it right. So, I mean,
Justin, just for ease of me searching through these emails, what were some of the specifics that
So,
they said?
the email from Paula Mara to Christine Melzon on June 30th talks about the breakdown of some of this stuff, more specifically, the stuff that HRC pointed out in front of the Masonic Temple at 231 North Main, how the steps were supposed to be redone, which were not, so that we could ease that slope. 134 West St. Clair, which is the old winery, how that was supposed to be redone. Just, I just don't know where the lack or the disconnect happened and why it was just rushed and not done. So I would like to see some communication with Roe on why and how we're gonna,
Well, I think that is the why. I think that's what they're gonna tell you.
it was supposed to be done and it
By
wasn't.
Peach Fest, and it was like, it had to get done at a certain point, so they did what they needed to do. I can ask, but he's already said that here.
But the letter from HRC at the September 13, 2023, if you notice, all throughout the letter, they're saying, and they were constructed in accordance with the construction plans. They kept saying that. Everything was done according to the construction plans.
Yeah, except where it wasn't. And he made, when he presented that at last month's meeting, where he said there was some clear issues outside of the guidelines. Mainly Masonic, and I believe he said, northwest section of Lafayette in Maine. I believe he said the slope was out there, and then there was concern in front of the church.
So my input would be, even if they had to get it done before Peach Fest, it's clear that some of these slopes are not within allowable grade. So no matter how fast they had to get it done, they still had to do it accurate. And so those are the things I'm focusing on, are the two that are out of compliance. And if they could fix those, because regardless of time frame, they should not be out of compliance either way.
Could you specify what?
Yes, in the report from HRC, number 4B, the slope of the existing roadway is 10% and exceeds the maximum allowable slope. And in 5B, the slope of the sidewalk connecting the land at Lafayette exceeds the proposed slope and the maximum allowable ramp slope of 8.3.
Hold on, 5B.
Yep.
Okay.
So regardless of time frame, those should have been done properly.
Not gonna argue that. Did you have something? No. So if the board would like, I'll go back to Roe and just ask for them to put those two. Is there anything else? And then we'll see what their communication
I
is.
don't know if there's been any communication with the church, and then also, would it be Four Corners Diner, right? I mean, that was their property that was redone, and,
Well, the owner. whoever that is.
yeah, and left in a manner that's worse than it was before. I mean, I know we had to do the project and do the sidewalks, but how can we leave a property owner in a worse condition than they were prior to it starting? I mean, I know the argument was made that that door is not used on the corner of the Four Corner Diner, but it's still a door that could be used. If someone else was in there or whatnot, I just can't see that being justifiable.
Okay. If that's where we want to be. Does the subcommittee want, I mean, we have the subcommittee. Do you want to take this on and do the communication, and, or do we want to, do you want me to do it? We have this subcommittee here for the crosswalk project, yet I'm been spearheading it, so which way would you like to do it?
I would love if you would handle it. I mean, we can.
No.
If you wanna.
I just don't want to be doing double work here. I will take it, and I will communicate with Roe. Is there any more discussion, or are we closed on that item?
I think we're set.
Okay. Moving into our social media policy, of which now is media policy. I have for you the updates. In red, I have what was taken out. Green, I have what was added, and then I have a whole nother document, should it actually be voted on that way, of what what it would then look like. There's one line where I am in question. I underlined it. It's on, of the red and green document, on the last page. Last month, we talked about turning off our comment options. And as I was writing this out, I thought we didn't clarify if this is just media that we in the village office use, or would you like it to also include the media that is posted on the village's behalf through our contracted services? So I have that sentence underlined as a question mark, as we didn't really specify that.
Do we have the ability to enforce a contractor's comment section if it's regarding our stuff?
Mr. Clark, can we direct that to you?
Do you have the ability to do what again? I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understood the question.
So the line here is insinuating that we're also, any contractors that are covering village topics paid for by us, that they have to turn off their comment section too. Do we have the ability to make an outside entity turn off their control their social media?
That would depend on the relationship, the contractual relationship between the village and the contractor, so that if your agreement with the contractor is that you have the ability to do that, then you would, as a means of enforcing the contract or implementing the contract. But if it's silent as to that, I don't know that you would have the ability to say, well, turn that off. I think that would have to be a negotiated item. I don't know, I'm very technologically challenged, I'm a Luddite, so I don't know what would be involved with turning it off. If it's a negotiated item, as I mentioned, yes, you would have the ability to do that. If it's not a negotiated item and you said to the contractor, please turn that off, if it didn't result in or require much activity, they might just do it. But if it requires the expenditure of time and money, then it becomes more problematic.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Can you give me an example, Megan, of what you're referencing, like who posts on behalf of the village?
We have our video contractor, and when you post the video, do you want the comment section open or closed? That's kind of what I'm asking.
I guess
or
I would-
anybody else who we would contract with down the road, do you want them to have comments on behalf of the village or not?
I would just keep it to us and our official page. I think maybe contractors kind of rely on clicks and comments and discussion and engagement to kind of, promote their business. I don't really know if that's in our say-so to tell them what to do or what not to do with their Facebook posts. I don't know, it's
think
tricky.
it's just Facebook. I think, like Megan said, if we've hired a contractor to record our meetings and post them, let's say, then the comment section is our section. We should be able to control, since we've hired that contractor. Is my understanding you?
Correct, and the other side of the issue is, should this contractor, not saying that they do or that I'm just saying in general, answer, if there's a question posed, should a contractor answer on behalf of the village, just like should comments be made on their items? So that's kind of where it goes, I don't know, it kind of gets a little mushy, and I wanted to ask your opinion on it, which way you guys wanted it here in your policy.
I mean, obviously, there might be a different future contractor for our video recording for the meetings, but maybe it doesn't hurt to just talk to our current one and see how they feel on the topic before we set this in stone.
Yeah, no, I have not broached them, I brought it here to you.
That would probably be a good idea. Are you potentially infringing on First Amendment rights though, too? By now not allowing that?
In what way?
Not allowing free expression?
I mean, Facebook's still a private company. I mean, you sign I agree to these terms and conditions, you kind of wave that away anyway. I mean, Facebook can delete your comments if they want to.
Yeah, we even have, when we did have comments, you can see that whole paragraph that
We're paying for the service.
we would retain the right to delete anything inappropriate, you know, X, Y, and Z.
This kind of brings up another question, somewhat related, but maybe not. If you said we're paying for a service for these to be posted, people will be able to view the meetings live. And I've had more than one resident express to me that they are blocked from that site and aren't able to watch our videos live. Is that something that's in our contract? I don't know, something we can look at, Mark, and
Well, it is, and it sounds to me like all of these items would be appropriate, and I've not looked at that contract in quite some time. In fact, I think the last time, I believe it was renewed, you had an initial contract, and then I believe it was renewed. So I don't know that it was a new contract. I think the initial one was bootstrapped, and so it's been quite some time since I've looked at that, but I would think those would be negotiated items. I mean, to Mr. Edwards' point, you don't want to stifle free speech, but as Mr. Kerr said, it's a private entity. So it's not the government saying you can't speak here, or you can't say these things. But I do find it problematic that your contractor would be able to prevent people from seeing the meeting that you've hired them to broadcast, supposedly to have more people watch, to have greater accessibility to what's going on in your meetings. That seems a little incongruous to me.
yeah.
Okay, so with the first question, I will reach out to MIT-TV and ask, well, do you want the comments? I'm not gonna reach out if you don't even want the comments turned off. Do you want them on or off?
I think people can post them as long as it's clear that any contractor we have cannot speak for us or respond.
Okay.
I think that would be fair, because then we can always go back and see the comments if we want and respond as needed, but they can't respond for us.
Okay.
And I'm sure if we had an issue with a particular comment, we could just reach out to our contractor and say, hey, can you remove this comment from your page? We don't.
Maybe there should be something posted on that saying, if, you know, profanity or anything extreme will be removed, you know.
So do we want to limit this media policy to just include no comments on our stuff and our stuff only, and we can have a private discussion with our video contractor after and just see how they want to handle their comment section?
That's fine.
Can do that. So the second was your draft, the second file in here. So where is it at?
Opinion on that, Mr. Clark?
What's that?
On Mr. Clark's favor?
No, that's fine. I think that's a wholly appropriate approach to it. That's certainly up to what the council decides.
So on the second page of the draft, if everything else is approved, with the amendments, I would just take out, under the Village of Romeo Facebook comment policy, I have a section just for Facebook. We'll take out the part of the first sentence, the second half of it, that says, including media that is posted on the village's behalf through contractor services. Okay? And that's the only
Add
edit?
something about them responding then, right?
Okay.
Yeah. I'd like to see something about posting on, or media in general, like, even if a news crew comes out to interview for us, I think something should be in here saying who speaks on behalf of the village when something is happening and Channel 4 shows up. Like, I think it should say in any media-related issues, it's either the president or the clerk or President Pro Tem that speaks on behalf of the village, so that it's clear it can't just be anybody. Because media is more than just Facebook. It's like you said, TV and recordings. So it should be a media policy that covers everything. So I'd like to see something of that regard mentioned. And then, again, back to something about using the village logo on personal accounts or personal information or personal cable pages, I don't know. But not using that, as well as,
Well, but I would, not sure that logo belongs on the media policy. Do you want that?
no, as long as you've got it covered somewhere. I don't know.
I think the first part of your question is already covered in the administration and management of media. I mean, administration's administration, whether it's spontaneous through Channel 4 or not.
Where
it's
is that?
being-
What are you looking at?
If you're looking on the back page of the draft, there's a heading, Administration and Management, and it basically covers the duties of who manages and who's allowed to post, who's allowed to.
So if you say take out media sites and put media outlets? Because a site is like a website or a Facebook page. Outlet would be TV, cable, that type of thing. Admins of, you could say social media pages, because that's a page.
Just say media, just admins of media shall be.
Yeah,
Just
because
covers it all.
you want to encompass website too.
Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah.
Other than that, I'll make a motion to approve it with those changes if we're able to at this point.
Okay. Under local, state, and federal, we need to remove the word social. It has Village of Romeo social media.
Yeah.
Okay, these 3 changes, yes, 2, 3, 4 changes.
I would like personally to see it written in its entirety before I voted on it, but just for clarification.
I'll rescind my motion then. That's fine.
Okay, we will table this for 1 more month. Okay, moving into our elected officials pay ordinance. This is brought to the table by trustee Parker. You asked last month for ordinances to be included.
So, yeah, we started discussion last month, you were here, Matt. I know we were just talking about the pays of the elected officials again, which I was surprised, and I wasn't aware, Catherine, you made it clear last month that there is no ordinance that dictates your pay, which I think is part of general village law, we're supposed to have an ordinance, I think, to determine the clerk's pay. So I don't know if that's something we could get drafted with Mark. I don't know if you're aware of that or you've seen that.
You have in your ordinances and also in state law, but your ordinances do set forth, and I think it's trustee and president's pay. I just have to get to the right section. But you can address that subject matter by an ordinance if you choose. You're not prohibited from having an ordinance.
Is there any concern of not having a specific ordinance that lays out a dollar amount of pay for the clerk?
Well, I guess so, and I don't mean to hesitate, but the reason for my hesitancy is ordinances tend, in my view, to lend clarity to things. If you've specified in an ordinance what's required of your office holders within the statutory limits, of course, you have greater certainty. On the other hand, a counter-argument can be made that, well, it also lends to a certain amount of rigidity, that it's an ordinance, it's hard to amend, they're not really, but there's an inertia built in that sometimes militates against amendments. So it's really the pleasure of the board. There are certain things that you can't do in your ordinances and things you can do, and you just have to decide what your comfort level is. Generally, I am in favor of, I'll say more than generally, I am in favor of clarity because everybody knows then what's expected of one another. And so I think that is important.
I think, yeah, where some of the concern lies is historically, we'll say at least since the 80s, the village president had appointed the administrative rights to the clerk. And I feel, reading through the ordinance book, a lot of the ordinances actually talk about the clerk doing a lot of things that may or may not be the clerk's responsibility. And if it was the clerk
The clerk
as the
was the
administrator,
yeah, the
right?
clerk was the
Well, if it's an ordinance now that says that's the clerk's job or part of the responsibility, but now we're saying the clerk's not the administrator, so whose responsibility is that? Because it's defined in our ordinance as the clerk's job, or part of the clerk's.
Whatever the
But it doesn't
administrator's
say
responsibilities
but it doesn't say
are now
administrator.
the village president's responsibility.
But I'm just saying, that a lot of the ordinances don't define that very clear. So I think an ordinance that spells out the clerk's responsibility from the general village law and then down to what it is in the village, I think would, like Mark's saying, would be a lot clearer.
Well, it sounds like there also needs to be more clarity on the current or past role of the administrator and where those duties lie when there isn't an
Within the
individually paid administrator.
I would agree.
Well, I think we're thinking of it a bit backwards. The president duties were always there. They're
Yes.
always that. It's not
Yes.
that the administrator gave something to the president. They were inherently the job of the president.
Right.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, you read through some of the ordinances, and it sounds like it was just written as the clerk, but it was always the clerk as the administrator. So I think we just need to kind of break it down to what's clerk, what's president, verify, and then put it in the ordinance.
So where does, we're talking about roles and duties right now, where does pay come into the equation for you?
Pay as far as what the job entails, right? I mean, that's kind of what I think we need to get clarified, and being that there's no, I was unaware that there was no ordinance that determined the clerk's job and responsibilities and pay.
Or the
So-
treasurer. It's the president and the
treasurer
trustees
also.
are what's included here.
So,
Yeah, there's a trustee one.
But their job description for all three are laid out in your general law.
yeah.
So if I hear what you're saying, Justin, is there's inconsistencies between our ordinances and some things that have happened in village law, just enough to make it muddy. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even when it gets, and I know we added cemetery, but tie it in a little bit, even when you get into the general village law with the cemetery and whose responsibility that is. And I haven't found anywhere where it says that the clerk is to be the sexton. Everything I see within our ordinances, which isn't much there, but in the general village law, it talks about the DPW supervisor basically being the one that oversees the cemetery and grounds, and the clerk is the clerk to the cemetery board. So that's not defined anywhere.
The bottom paragraph on page 1 kind of talks to all that.
Where are we at?
Page 1, the bottom paragraph, if the village president, I'll let you just read that.
It doesn't talk about the cemetery.
No, but it talks about whether, the discretion as to whether or not the village president wants to appoint an administrative assistant to act on his or her behalf. So it does talk to it.
The problem I see with this is that doesn't define what the administrator's pay is. It only defines what the president's pay is if they don't appoint an administrator. So there was an issue with that, and then there was still the issue, which goes back to, I think, when this originally all happened, is we and the public still have never seen the original amendment to the president's pay prior to this. And I think it was 2018 that you had even asked for back then. So, I mean, there's just a lot of discrepancies.
That one is currently on the website.
It is now. The 2018 one.
Yeah, we had to pull this one out of our file,
So in this, all right, we still need to get those updated then too.
of which, yes, once we realize that.
Okay. So.
I could support some direction of clarification and consistency. I'm not sure, I haven't looked into it obviously as much as you have, it sounds like. I have some, and yeah, there are some inconsistencies, and I could support just cleaning it up.
Well, I think if you guys would like to take that on and go through that, because I can't create a document or adjust something that I don't know what you want.
If I could give you a point of reference, the General Law Village Act very sets forth succinctly what the duties of each position is. The president, the clerk, the treasurer. It allows for law enforcement. As Mr. Parker mentioned, it allows for a public works. And the statute says, I believe, in my opinion, is that it's quite clear as to what those duties and responsibilities are. And I am not surprised. I don't regularly comb through the village ordinances, but I'm not surprised that there may be some references to the clerk's position. I think the clerk may have some responsibility with respect to zoning compliance permits and things of that nature. And so I would just recommend that whatever your review is, that you start with the General Law Village Act, which sets forth the duties and responsibilities. Otherwise, you're going to be herding cats. It's going to be hard to zero in on the specific responsibilities and duties. And you're correct, Mr. Parker, that there's no mention of the word sexton with respect to the clerk as his or her duties might be to the cemetery. But your ordinance does have some very specific requirements of the clerk relative to the cemetery board. One of them is that the clerk is the clerk to the cemetery board, and the other is that when lots are sold, if you look at your ordinance, the board sets the price of the lots and so forth, but the clerk has to sign the certificate showing that the lot has been purchased. And the clerk also has to verify any reports that the cemetery board makes. The clerk has to verify under oath that that's the report of the cemetery board. So what you do with that, or you should do with that what you will, but it's not, there is some specificity there. Could it be clear? Most things could be, and that's at your pleasure. But I would encourage you to look at the General Law Village Act with respect to each office, the president's office, your own offices as trustees, and as well as the clerk and the treasurer.
Well, ordinances are within the trustees' purview.
They
correct?
are. That's
So
correct.
you guys would like to rewrite some ordinances.
Right.
I don't mind
I don't
working
see
on
the
it,
need.
but I have the ability to work with Mark, because he's a little bit better with the legal language than I am.
Who typically writes ordinances?
Depends on the ordinance.
Pardon me?
Depends on the ordinance.
Okay.
If it's a code of ordinance or if it's a zoning ordinance.
So who would do either one, code or zone?
I usually write them, but it's at the direction of the council. You have a topic. Within the last couple of years, you've had the marijuana business license, and that went through a number of iterations. And but I have no qualms about writing the ordinance, but I would recommend that you not say to me, hey, Mark, go write an ordinance about the clerk's duties or responsibilities, or go write an ordinance about this, because you're the policymakers. That's your decision. So I don't vote. You don't want me to come back with something that's larded with my ideas and philosophies. I will implement what you want me to do.
I just think it's kind of complicating things. I mean, why don't we just use the general law of village?
We already have.
That is generally how we work together. We go off of that.
Why are we
as a-
recreating the wheel here?
As a chief executive officer, I do what the law states in regards to property and that sort of thing. Catherine does keeper of the seal, the documents, all of the stuff, permitting. Generally, that's how we work together when we go, wait, whose is this? And
Yes.
we look at the law.
Yeah, I guess, like, the discrepancy with the cemetery was one thing that I had seen, that,
Would you like
So, yeah, I mean,
somebody
in
else
section-
to run the cemetery, or are you suggesting that the
No,
clerk should
just
get
for
extra
if-
to run the
if we
cemetery?
need to clarify it, then we need to clarify it, because it clearly says in the General Village Law Act, the clerk is the clerk to the board of the cemetery, and upon a board of cemetery trustees by this act shall be exercised by the Department of Public Works supervisor or the village manager, if any. That's section 6757.
Well, I can tell you right now, I would not be handing over more work to our DPW supervisor without compensation.
I
So,
don't think I said I wanted
but what I'm
to give
saying
them
is,
more,
so
but-
are you suggesting we should be in turn compensating our clerk for all, for her work?
Just wants to talk with Mr. Clark to probably work out some.
Put the draft together, clarify
That's what I'm thinking.
stuff. I mean,
Well, I-
is there pay to be the sexton? I don't know. Do you get?
No, I don't get paid to do that.
It's just,
Part of her job.
It's just a duty that was handed off to me.
yeah, so I mean, she's not being paid for it. The law says someone else is responsible for it. I think it needs to be clarified.
But you do have an ordinance that addresses the clerk's,
The clerk is the clerk.
no,
Right.
you have an ordinance that addresses the clerk in relationship to that office to the cemetery board.
Yeah, and it says the clerk shall act as the clerk to the cemetery board.
Well, and some other things in there if you look at the ordinance, but again, that's your,
I don't have that one in front of me.
I mean, it seems to me that just any concerns or possible potential improvements you might see helpful to the ordinances that clarify anything, whether it's pay or roles. Let's just table this till next month. You can bring any of those specifics you have in mind, and at that point, we can review them with Mr. Clark's opinion on the matter. But to just kind of go blindly into rolling up our sleeves and saying, let's redefine every single role. I'm not saying you're saying that, but that's hefty, that's a lot.
Big job.
Maybe if we just identify some specifics of definite concerns or clarification needed, next month we can go from there and see how we can improve those at that time.
Well, for the sake of timing, would you be willing, or could we authorize Mark to meet with Justin and then bring whatever it is to the table, so we don't have to, whatever it is you're suggesting, Justin?
Well, like bring a draft
Yeah.
or something for it. I mean,
To move it along?
yeah, I wouldn't mind.
I'll do whatever you want me to do.
It's at the council's discretion. How do you want to take the next steps? You suggested
I mean,
coming
Mark
back,
reviews our
he's
board packets
suggesting.
anyway. If there's something in the packet, he's gonna review it at that point. I don't know if compensating him for another subcommittee or different meeting is necessary. If he has to review it anyway next month.
Yeah, I wouldn't be on a subcommittee or taking, I don't think we could compensate it for subcommittees anyways.
So we just need a directive just to meet with Mark. please.
Can you turn your microphone on, Zach, please?
Huh?
Can you turn your
Oh.
microphone?
I said, so he just needs a directive just to meet with Mark and have the conversation. We can talk about it next month, correct?
Yeah,
All right.
that's what the board wants.
Anytime we put Mark to work.
Cause for over.
Well, it sounds like we're divided, so if, who wants what, or someone put out a motion so that we can have a decisive
I'll make
answer.
a motion that, Mr. Parker, with his concerns, meet with Mr. Clark and brings back the information next month's meeting.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, we have a
That was
motion,
Shelley who
motion
seconded?
by Fowler, second by Rousseau. Could you call the roll, please, when you're finished?
Fowler,
Yes.
Rousseau,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Care,
No.
Bartholomew,
No.
President Poznanski.
No.
Motion carries 4-3.
So we will look for that next month. Was there something here within pay, though? The discussion was a pay ordinance, and we were discussing roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, I mean, it still just comes back to what we had talked about last month. I know Matt had brought some concern to it in previous meetings from residents, and that we all were against the pay raise that the president gave or received. And you were also opposed to that, and I thought that maybe we should look at rescinding it back or changing it back to what it was prior.
What it was prior was probably, what, 36 per month,
It was
$1,200?
prior to the current It was roughly 30.
$1,200 per month, period, end of story. And then the administrator got paid the rest.
Negative.
No, the president only got paid for
Yeah,
the meetings,
when the president
which isn't
appointed-
$1,200 a month.
$1,200,
No,
No.
no.
It's like
It was-
$250 maybe?
2,100 for the year?
It was like 170 salary, 175 and 75 per meeting. So it was, that's what,
$250 a
the
month.
that's
So
what the
that's what it
president,
was.
when it was appointed.
Okay, so that's what it was.
Yeah.
Period, end of story. There was no additional, the administrator got all of the additional parts,
If there was one.
which there always had been before that.
Well, starting in about the 80s, right, when they,
Oh,
when they
quite a
create,
lot longer
when they
than that.
created that position.
Oh, yeah,
1988,
could've-
September of
yeah.
1998,
Yeah.
88.
I didn't realize you were saying when they created it. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Mhm.
It was partly because the president was part-time.
Yeah.
The president had a job.
Yeah,
Had a
and I'm not
40-hour a
disagreeing,
week
but
job.
then
So-
when our past president came in and took that role on, and the pay was 30,000
Mm-hmm.
a year, and then shortly after was raised till almost 60. Yeah.
By taking on the role of the administrator, you mean?
No,
Just raised.
You don't take on the role of
In
administrator.
2018,
You
one of
are-
the first meetings
are
with
the
the new
president.
council, the new administration, president said, I'm not gonna appoint an administrator. Me and the clerk are gonna split the 70, or whatever it was, that the clerk and, the clerk with the appointed was making roughly the 68, and it was 30/40, is what the clerk or president decided was the pay to not appoint and maintain the full-time or part-time status as it was.
There was a study done of presidents of our size village done throughout the state of Michigan. And I forget who did the study offhand, but we hired somebody to come in and do it. And what we ended up choosing as a board was the lower side to middle of the road salary for this size village.
Which time was this? Was this 2018 or was this the more
This
recent?
would have been whenever we did it, 2018,
21.
That was the more recent
21?
one? Okay.
2021. So in 2018, she was still making, or, yeah, she would have been still making the monthly pay.
No, the 30.
30
The 30?
Yeah.
30.
plus the
So
monthly.
prior to 88, the president wasn't paid anywhere near the percentage or compensation, right? The administrative role was created. It was appointed. The president still was never taking it if it was appointed. So from 18 to 23, we went from a president that was getting paid $175 a month salary and $75 per meeting, similar to what the trustees get,
Yeah.
to making 30,000 plus the 175 plus the meeting pay. And then shortly after, went from 30 to 58 and some change, plus meeting, plus the 175 salary. So where's the justification? And this is the same concern that part of this board had with the past, was where's that justification to jump?
I don't understand where this 30 is coming from.
30 what?
You're saying 175 a month plus 75.
$75
and
per
then
meeting.
What's this 30? you're talking
30, that's what the last president said, that, and you voted on it, I wasn't on the board, that the pay of the president would be without appointing an administrator back in 2018.
Oh, okay. Yep, that's probably true.
Yeah, so like I'm saying, we went from.
But that was still underpaid then. If, again, when you go back and you look at those studies, that was,
Way low.
that was being paid less per hour than a McDonald's worker.
It's 14-something an hour.
Yep,
If you're basing it on full-time.
yeah,
40 hours a week.
yeah. The McDonald's employees, McDonald's drive-through make more than our village president. So why would you want to
Then.
take this job?
They did.
Then,
Yeah, before the.
Oh,
That's
then,
what we-
then, yes. So why would you want to take this job work 40 hours a week and be responsible for all this, and you could go down to McDonald's and make more.
That's a life choice, if you're asking me. I mean, I don't know.
Okay.
I can't answer for somebody.
That's just it. In other words, you're not going to get quality people to run for village president. You're gonna only get people.
58,000 a year is not gonna guarantee a quality person.
Yeah.
Whoever
We
runs
always-
and
we
has
always
the
had-
votes
We always had
is
people
gonna
to
get
run
it.
for president. And I don't think there's ever been an election that I can remember where someone's like, I'm just not running for president. We didn't have a president, right? Even when it was 175 and 75
We
per
always had
meeting,
somebody.
because
But they also knew they didn't have all the responsibilities.
But what is this responsibility we're talking about? Because the appointed administrator position.
Ask your village president, see if she just sits on her ass
and-
all day.
I'm sure she
I'm
does.
sure she's busier now.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying that, but what we're talking about didn't have this responsibility because they appointed an administrator. What was the duties of the administrator, right? Very minimal.
Oh, no.
I don't want to interject myself into the debate, but you really have to keep in mind, please, that as Mrs. Poznanski said a moment ago, you have it backwards. Don't glorify, please, the administrator. The administrator, and I don't mean to denigrate the person who had that position over the years and subsequently, but the administrator, you gave the administrator an assignment of tasks, not responsibilities. The administrator really had no ultimate responsibility or authority. He or she, the administrator, carried out the president's duties at the president's pleasure. That's how it was structured. So the administrator was designed and intended and started out in 1987, 88, 89, because the village president was never, not that it couldn't have been, but was never a full-time position. The village president had a day job and then did this like the rest of you. Again, not to denigrate the part-time nature of it, but the village president had a day job. And so there had to be somebody in the office that could speak for or act on behalf of the president. But that person, if the president said, no, we're not doing that as a village, I'm going to exercise my authority, the administrator cannot override the village president. The tail did not wag the dog. And so don't exalt, please, in your consideration, the administrative position, because the president is the chief executive officer of the village, and the duties of the administrator, when that position was not filled, you didn't abolish it, you just didn't fill it, didn't suddenly give the president duties that he or she wouldn't have otherwise had. You have to start from the top down, not from the bottom up. So having said that, I'll stay out of it.
So all the things that you've asked your village president to do, even tonight, would have been done by the administrator. Everything. I mean, talking to HRC, all done by the administrator. All that stuff. Going on inspections, whatever, it's all done by the administrator. The village president was working.
So for my clarification, I wasn't on the board yet. In 2021, we paid for someone to come in and do a study on Michigan village pay for presidents.
Yep.
And
Villages of our size.
All the surrounding area,
Okay.
communities and whatnot.
So from that, we decided to go on the lower end of the median.
Yep.
It was still a considerable raise for the president, but even after 2 years since 2021, it's probably even worse off now. Anything lower than that's just not appropriate. It's not.
Right.
Of which, let me be clear, I have not asked for a raise. This discussion is not initiated by me whatsoever. Just be clear.
So what's the issue here then?
And maybe I misunderstood Mark, but like he said, the administrative position was more some delegated task. The president wasn't full-time. It was never a full-time position, even
If you
prior
would like me to work
the
part-time, I
creation.
will work part-time.
So what's the concern? I'm sorry, I'm just.
Yeah,
I'm
So,
not
I mean,
following.
part of it would be that, I feel that the president is taking on a lot more responsibility than he or she is supposed to. I think, based on our ordinances, based on everything else in the general village law, the clerk is supposed to be doing a lot more. And the president has traditionally been a part-time position, regardless of if the administrative assistant role was established, which the ordinance even messes that up. It talks about an administrative assistant, then talks about a village administrator as the same person. So that's where I'm at. I don't feel our president should be doing as much as the president is doing. I think the day-to-day operations should be handled more by the clerk, as they traditionally have been,
No, they were
since not even,
traditionally
even
handled by the
prior to
administrator.
the establishment of the administrator.
Which was the clerk.
It happened to just combine the jobs because they volunteered, they negotiated, and that's what they came out with.
Right.
Yeah,
So everything's covered.
she wanted the job.
Could you specify some duties that you feel that I'm, or this position is taking on too much?
Again, I mean, we can come back in full with something. I know I don't have it all spelled out yet, no. That's why if I can sit with Mark, we can define, talk about these. I mean, you had even said that there was a concern earlier in the year. You raised a concern about this. And you said you had a concern, residents had a concern.
I didn't have a concern. I received a letter from a resident that understood from the campaigns that you guys did over on Ted Siegel's property there. And according to that letter, Megan had promised that they would take a lower salary, that this new salary that we had voted on was too high. That was something that Megan brought up and Zach brought up to this resident, and that resident took it to heart. And then they wrote me a letter asking me to read it in front of the council. It was not my letter.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
You indicated in the letter about Mr. Sigel when you were going to get up and say that he owed back taxes, is that what you're talking about?
What?
Never mind, we ought to get on beyond this. Because when you put my name in, you just.
Okay, are we,
Well, because you two used to do those sessions together over on Ted's
Yeah,
property.
it's just a little.
Alright.
trustee talk? I'd like to see the documentation that says any of what you're saying, though, for,
Let's look at the letter.
doesn't, yes, I see, it. I saw the letter claiming some things that were written. I'd like to see
Well,
them.
that's all I have.
I know.
That's the letter.
So elected officials pay ordinance as an unfinished business item. Is this something that is continuing here? Is there a decision made?
I'm
What-
gonna meet with Mark, address some issues, and bring something back for next month.
Well, I think the council needs to make a motion to that effect.
I think we did.
Regarding not pay, though, that was regarding duties. Are we good with that? Is that what we want? Just leave it there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Could we have a vote on that motion, please?
Can you repeat the motion, please?
I'm confused. I thought you all just said
There was a
we did
motion
that.
by Fowler, second by Rousseau.
We already voted.
We did?
Yeah, we did.
My apologies.
Okay. I was saying, I'm confused.
Yep.
Okay, so we will bring it back as that. Okay, moving on to our DPW vehicle. Our supervisor went and found 2 more quotes for you.
2 more quotes, or is this just the original quote and then one additional?
And then one to fix it too, so that was an additional.
Yes, I included
One
the
quote's
original
the-
so that you would have something to refer to.
So this is a 2012 Ford 250?
2024.
2020, well, okay, this is for the, to fix up a 2012 vehicle.
Oh, I see, okay.
I mean, after seeing this, I still think we're just fine with how we left it last month. I think
Yeah.
the Ford van, the new Ford van is just the way to go.
Yeah, you voted on that.
I don't,
Well, we did not vote
We voted to
to
order.
actually purchase it, though.
And
That's
then
right.
upon, yeah, which, thank you for getting the additional quote.
Yeah.
so,
So do we want a motion to officially make a purchase?
yeah, if I could make that motion, would it still be based off the same price as last month? The quote would be the same, right?
Quoted the Ford van and dropped it from a 350 to a 250 and
Okay.
needed
Some of the additions?
a couple options, but it only dropped it down about $1,500.
So, and that's what you're content with, the 250 instead of the 350? In the amount of 56,957?
It'd be lower than that. I didn't include that quote in there.
So can we just keep it as is, and then once we get the numbers next meeting, we can vote to just make the purchase?
Sure, for the 250, yeah.
I'm good with that,
Okay, so table again.
So no vote tonight?
yeah. It's on order, correct? Or do we need a motion to order?
I did not order it last month. I made a living from ordering it if we're not gonna purchase it. I didn't wanna waste my time or you guys' time. So I got the other quotes and I recorded the Ford one at 250, which I got quoted at.
Okay.
Which dropped it, like I said, dropped it down.
Well, the motion was to order it.
To order
Right.
the
So it still stands.
350. This is what the motion was made for. If we could make a motion, would it make sense, Mark, if we made a motion to order 2024 3/4 ton not to exceed the 56? Could we do that?
I mean-
Just so you can move along?
The minutes just state that we make a motion to order a new van. It's pretty vague anyway.
Yeah, you guys didn't specify which one.
Right, because the first motion in the exact amount for the 350 was shot down.
So-
We should get the van ordered
Yeah.
as
so
soon as possible.
You want to make it not to exceed, or you want me to make a motion?
If it was around, you can make the motion. He said it'd be around 1,500 less than
Yeah.
56,009. I
Should
would
we
just
say
keep
purchase?
it.
I'll make a motion to purchase a 2024 2500 3/4 ton Ford van, and not to exceed 56,957.
Is that price okay? Second.
Okay, motion by Parker, second by Care. If you could please call the roll.
Parker,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Fowler,
No.
Rousseau,
Yes.
President Poznanski.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
Okay, so that does not need to come back now. Moving into, we had our additions of F Cemetery.
So part of this was brought up with the elected pay, just the roles and stuff, which we can figure out and go from there.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Were you able to
Microphone?
do any follow-up
Doesn't.
regarding last month's meeting?
No, not at this time. I did discuss it with the cemetery board this afternoon when we had our meeting, and they feel that since that is village property, not cemetery property, they would like to see potentially a committee formed through the Board of Trustees, and I do have a cemetery board member who volunteered to be a liaison to the cemetery board to go over such items such as, you know, going forward with investigating and addressing village property for potential cemetery expansion.
So you didn't contact Mr. Clark at all, and you guys haven't communicated regarding?
No, not at this time, no, because I waited to run this by my cemetery board.
And you did that today?
I did that today, yes.
And that stands for the surveying too of the lots, or the potential plots?
Correct, because their main goal right now is still the roads project. Expansion is not a priority at this time. It's
Well,
in the
this
top
isn't-
3
This
list.
isn't expansion, this is the existing cemetery.
Right, but their priority right now and their focus is on the roads. The engineers were present today at the meeting, so we did give them a heads up of your concern in regards to that plot, but their concern right now and their main focus is the road and the bid package that's going out tomorrow.
So if we give you a directive to, like, to have them survey the property, do we have to, like, put that in a motion?
I would think so.
Because
I mean, Mark, I don't know if you could
People, what I'm
clarify-
talking about is that we have this property right off Morton Street.
Morton Street,
As soon as you
yeah.
go in the cemetery, there's the vacant land there. And for so long, we've been told that there's no more lots in the cemetery, but there is lots. The last previous clerk was about ready to do it, but he never got reelected, but the property's sitting there, so I have a concern as far as us burying locals, Romeo locals outside the village when we still have property here. So I'd like to pursue it as much as we can to at least bring some clarity to our village residents getting buried in our own cemetery. That's the only reason I brought this up. So,
I guess, Mark, I don't know if you're familiar with the section of the village law, or the general village law that talks about cemeteries, responsibilities, roles, duties, and so on. My understanding reading it is the cemetery board can be given some authorities to do some tasks, like you were saying earlier, pricing of lots, selling of lots, along those lines. The council still holds directive, it would be my understanding. And if the council chooses or wishes to see the cemetery board move forward with surveying and plotting more grave sites, if it's a motion and carries, that would be the directive of the cemetery board. Is that correct, or?
Did you mean of our board?
Well,
Our
I would.
board to their board, yeah.
I would caution you about, certainly the village owns the cemetery. There's no question about that. And I believe you budget, or allow in your budget, or provide in your budget a certain amount of money for the cemetery board. And I believe within the last year or two, the cemetery, there was a millage or a portion of a millage, a part of a millage allocated to the cemetery, I believe primarily for the paving of the streets. So in order to, while the village owns the cemetery board does, as you mentioned, have certain authorities, certain responsibilities. I would think that if you as a village council want the cemetery surveyed, or if you want some type of survey done to determine if there are additional lots there, I think it would be better advised for you to do that as a council rather than direct the cemetery board to do it and not give them any money with which to do it. I think it can be problematic. So do you have the authority to stake out additional lots if they exist, or have a survey done? Yes, you do. I'm just not sure it's good governance to direct the cemetery board to do that when the cemetery board is the one that lays out the cemetery and is responsible for its good care and maintenance. So you direct them to do it and they don't have any money to do it. That can be problematic.
Understandable, I like it. So this board then can move forward with plotting that out.
The village owns the cemetery. The cemetery board is not a separate entity in the sense that it owns the cemetery. It's not autonomous. The village council or the president, with the approval of the council, appoints the board members to the cemetery board. So, yes, you can do that if you choose.
Okay. And then as far as the report that was asked for at last month's meeting, with just a breakdown of the financials, typically once a year, the cemetery board provides that unless council requests more often. I just would like to see a breakdown of where the money's being spent, what the hours are being used.
Well, you get that every month in the budget to actual, and then any of the vendor reports shows directly what's coming out of the cemetery fund
Yeah, I would just
209.
like the report based on,
You have the report. But, I mean, if you can give me an outline, a detailed outline of the specifics you're requiring, I will run that by my cemetery board.
I will email.
So Clerk Trapp, did you ask the cemetery board if they could follow through with plotting, and they said no? Did you?
They didn't, it's not that they said no, they said that that is on their radar, but not at this time because their priority for the last 2 years, and there's meeting minutes declaring that,
Yeah.
are the roads.
Right, I'm very
Right,
familiar
so
with
that
what's not happening the
project
past 2
is
years.
just not a
So-
project for 2023. Do we see it in the future? Yeah, when? We don't have a time.
So do they understand that village residents are being turned away from the cemetery?
They do?
I recall that President Malzone asked you to look into vacant lots a couple of years ago. And where are you with that? Have you done anything as far as buyback of lots or vacant land? I mean, all we hear from you is that our cemetery's full. Well, obviously, if you drive up there, there's a lot of vacant spots. And we have no way knowing who they own, who are the owners. And I think she asked you to look into that. to see-
Right, I did, there is a legal process that we would have to go through once there's vacant abandoned lots determined. It's about a 2 to 3 year legal process we would have to go through with the state and the county. But the lots, have they been identified? No, not at this time.
Well, I know she instructed you to do that, so you haven't really done anything over that time period.
I did have somebody assisting me with such project, but that person is no longer an assistant in the village office, and just with my other duties right now, I just have not completed that task.
Well, this is part of your duties.
I know, but my concentration is on the foundations and the burials that I have almost weekly. And the families that come
And I
into
say-
weekly and the phone calls I get weekly.
And I say again, any village resident that wants to be buried in our own cemetery needs to have that right. So, please, continue, try to get it done.
Okay, so is this item for discussion only? Is there
If I
something
need
that
to
we're?
make a motion to, I think Mr. Clark indicated that we need, if we're going to have that survey, we need to spend the money, but don't spend their money. Is that the way you put that out, Mr. Clark?
Well, yes,
Okay.
because you don't, the phrase that's used, unfunded obligations or unfunded directions, so the cemetery board could decide, oh, we're gonna spend money, we're gonna spend resources to survey the cemetery, see where there might be vacancies or vacant lots or plots and so forth. Yes, they can do that, but if you as the village, acting on behalf of the village in your capacity as trustees, if you want that done, then you can do that, even if the cemetery board may say, well, no, we don't want you to survey it, but you have the ability, the village owns the cemetery.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion that we pursue a surveyor to plot out the properties that we currently own in the village cemetery for burials.
From our fund or from the?
From our funds.
I'll support.
Is that something HRC can do, Megan? Or at least,
Well, Don King out of Belmont, who's partially retired, he's reasonable. Heck of a name, but
So we have a motion by Fowler, second by Rousseau.
Yes. Do we have a dollar amount threshold, or you guys to make the phone calls and get 3 bids to do this?
I'll make the phone call. I have no problem making the phone call.
Well, shouldn't we send this out and get 3?
Yes, I'll make one of the phone calls.
We get quotes,
Yes.
3 quotes. In discussion, my only concern is we're gonna do this, spend the money, and it doesn't seem that the cemetery wants to do any of the, they're not working on this at this time. So my concern is to spend the money, to say, here you go, and they don't have focus on that right now.
And we
It
need
just
to
sits
know
there.
as
So then what is the next
And
step?
trustees, what's available in our cemetery, as opposed to being told no.
But you're
There's
gonna
nothing
get there,
available.
you're gonna potentially get there.
We need to find out.
And
Potential.
then,
Hell, I might be dead tomorrow.
so could I.
East Township.
And then you're gonna get
I
there,
see both arguments here. I would like to
and then what?
see, like, the roads have been the discussion, which
For
I'm not
years.
saying they don't need to be done for years, and we keep, how many times did the engineers come and looked at it and sent it out and looked at it, and they've come back, and now we're potentially, where are we at? I mean, and I'm not saying, I'm questioning you guys' ability, but can we look at doing 2 things at once? I mean, if we're looking at spending money to improve the roads, why are we not looking at improving or increasing plots? so that people can purchase, that people knowing they can be buried here. I mean, it's two things.
Once it's platted, the cemetery board doesn't need to do anything, right? We just know where they're at and they can be sold. What's the cemetery, right?
I mean, it sounds like a lot of our direction will
a little bit more
come
involved
once
in
we get
that.
the results from the survey.
Yeah, we
Then
need
we'll
to
kinda
know if there's room
what
left.
steps necessary to handle it. I mean, 2-3 year waiting periods through the county to try to figure out buying certain plots back.
Abandoned, yeah.
If at least we get the results first, then we can develop a plan of action of, hey, maybe we have to start a subcommittee to chase this ourselves if the cemetery board doesn't have.
Well, if that's
real
what we're
time.
willing to do. I'm just saying, I don't want us to spend money for us
This
to go,
isn't
here you
abandoned
go.
lots. This is undeveloped ground in the current cemetery.
Yeah.
I can't imagine we have a cemetery board that doesn't want our locals buried in our cemetery.
I can't imagine any of us don't want that.
Right,
Not want
so
to.
I'm
Once you're
thinking
full,
there's
you're full.
gotta be some kind of disconnect here.
And that property along Morton,
I know, I know.
I think it was explained that that's on a hill.
It is on a hill.
So
Yeah,
some
I mean,
of this
but
has been looked
It's
at.
all up the hill. It's all buried up the hill.
Well, I mean, but that particular strip.
That particular,
But just look up it. I mean, you go right to where the graves are, it's on that same hill. And it was determined by Mike Lee, past clerk, that, and president, I guess, that was gonna be plotted and surveyed and developed for more burials, more burial spots. And if we have potentially, would we mark out walking in just a one day, 80, 100, easy?
Easy 60.
Can you build columbariums into the
that
hill?
is.
That might be a better spot to build a
Yeah,
columbarium.
just-
I think that'd be a way better spot.
I think
It's land that's just been sitting there and
Right, I think
potentially
more
That's what I said.
other,
Who gets-
studies.
who gets their
A
first?
surveyor
But
just goes.
they have
with-
declared a focus.
yeah, and
That's what
marks
you
it
got,
out.
so we need somebody who does that.
Would you like me to
cemetery.
conduct a roll call vote?
Yeah.
Okay, are we done discussing?
Yes.
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Fowler?
Yes.
Rousseau?
Yes.
President Poznanski?
Yes.
Parker?
Yes.
Care?
Yes.
Edwards?
Yes.
Bartholomew?
No.
Motion carries 6-1.
Now, there wasn't a specified dollar amount on that. I hate to play Monday morning quarterback after we just voted on it, but is that something we might want to rein in a little bit, or?
Bring that
I mean, we're getting
information.
quotes, I
Well,
guess.
if you're getting
so-
Yeah,
multiple
getting
quotes,
quotes.
you'll find out.
Okay, sorry.
We won't just do it. We'll see it next month, if we get 3 quotes next month. Okay, moving into our,
The only last thing I had on the cemetery topic was, I didn't know, you didn't hear anything in the report. I know you talked about something that started federally with Cemetery Visitation Day in October. Did we have anything planned for this month, September 30th, Cemetery Days, that's in our ordinance?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
I
We'll
will
just make it
confer
part of
with the
Tilson Street.
cemetery board.
What's that?
We'll just make it part of Tilson Street.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
we haven't seen anything in the past few years per ordinance, April 25th or September 30th, and September 30th should be cemetery days for our cemetery, per our ordinance, so might be something to look into moving forward,
Okay.
be nice.
okay, G, unfinished added, vendor activity report, report from the BAT.
Yes, so it's the report in the back that says vendor activity report for Village of Romeo, July 1st, 19 through 8/31/23, and that was partially a request of mine. I actually, in reference to the consulting, asked for the consultant report, not all of the vendors. So, thank you for this. We have way more than we need, just consultants. So consultants are different than vendors.
Well, we have a lot of consultants, we have a lot of vendors, and we have a lot of areas of professionals that we rely on that are in this list.
Right, so I just want the consultants, not all of the vendors in between. So I appreciate this, but I think what we were trying to figure out is our consultant expenses over the past 4 or 5 years. So if we could have it revised to be just consultants, and I'm sure somewhere in the accounting, there's a difference between vendor and consultant payment, or some type of parameter. That's pretty standard for accounting. So if we could get that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that for all departments, or do you want to specify administratively in the village office, or with DPW, wastewater? Or
Any consultant.
Any consultant, copy.
That the village has paid for village business.
Okay, so we will table that
Yep.
with that for next month.
Thank you.
Okay, moving into our new business, our Star Transportation. This is the municipal credit and community credit contract for 2023, as passed on to us from Parks and Rec. Money goes to the Smart Transportation. We needed to have, pardon me?
Are we
What
technically
they said.
supposed to vote on tabling something? Like all
I
in
don't-
favor?
It was just a discussion, so it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
If there was a vote required. Is that-
Yeah, the date, it should be June 24, I believe.
I don't know, this is the contract they sent us
Oh, they sent us.
personally
Oh,
from them.
so this started July 1st, if I'm reading it properly? Of 23, and
Yeah.
should go through June of 2024?
Yeah, so it should probably mimic what's under it. The first one
So
should
the-
go to June
The
24.
credits mentioned above are available from the period of July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024, not 23.
Yeah, so it should probably mimic what's, you see right, the dates right under it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to pass the funds on to the Star Transportation Group.
I'll support.
We have a motion by Edwards. Do you want Rousseau or Fowler? Who would you like?
Fowler, I heard Fowler.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Second by Fowler.
I heard Fowler.
Could you call the roll, please?
Edwards,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rousseau,
Yes.
President Poznanski,
Yes.
Bartholomew.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, moving on to our lawn maintenance bid. This is something, we still have a little bit till it's up, but we wanted to get the jump on considering this is kind of a seasonal work that if we wait till it's actually up, the contractors generally have their season locked in already. So this is just here. We put in the last bid for you to look at, to see if there would be any amendments to it. Other than that, we're gonna send it out.
In there, it mentions proposal for cemetery lawn maintenance will be also accepted. Should that be a separate RFP, or do we traditionally keep it in there so it comes in one package?
Especially since they got their own money.
Well, I don't think it necessarily, well, it's your RFP, but I don't think it necessarily means we're doing it. I just think it means
just-
they can quote it if they felt like it.
Yeah, it was just an optional item that we've reviewed in the past against the staffing amounts that we pay.
So that if it is cheaper, we could go with them as opposed to doing it ourselves. I don't know.
Right, but just keep in mind, though, that's just going to be for maintenance. That's not going to include anything with the foundations, the families, the cremain burials, any of the burials that my maintenance crew assists with currently.
Right.
So we can just remove that altogether, or we can leave it in.
Well, I'd kind of like to remove it and actually have one done, though. I think it's a good idea to have it done, but separate from this one, so
Okay.
that they're, so it doesn't get muddied. And then if we could, on the cemetery one, I obviously don't know the wording of it, but outside of the fence line, the edging, the sidewalks, the easements, even the approaches, if we could make sure that that's included as far as being maintained?
I think that should be included on all our lots.
It
The
should.
Parking lots and all that, which it's been neglected.
Yeah.
Well, if that's going to be a separate RFP for the cemetery, again, that's probably another directive for the either cemetery board, or if that's something for you guys to review.
Who typically
The
does it?
cemetery board is the one who reviews
think I've ever
staffing every season for that, for such items.
I mean, if it's included, I'd like
I mean,
to see
this
the
was,
numbers
because, okay.
of what it would cost to have someone, and then if we could look at not just a total, but a per cut price, that'd be beneficial also, because I know a lot of them are doing a per cut now. and it
Well, that's how we
ends
get
up-
billed, is per
And it
cut.
ends up saving. If other people just bill monthly, and if they only, they'll come out and cut every week, even if it doesn't need it.
That's how this RFP is set up, and this is how we get billed, is we get once a month and every date they were there at the address and how much per cut is. So you're welcome to come in and look at the current invoices, but that's how it is set up.
So the what's going out will also be a per cut. Okay.
I think this one looks good.
Okay, so with those,
I'll just remove the cemetery
Changes?
language,
Yeah.
okay, we'll send that out. and
keep
we'll-
it separate.
At least we want to get it locked in by January, we think, so then that way. the
Do you need
peop-
motion
they
to
can
go out,
send
do
their-
an RFP or directive?
Just do it.
Just do
Okay,
it.
good.
Capital improvement plan, I put plant, but hope we know that you know what I mean. Also known as a CIP. This is something that I presented to our planning commission. This is something that the Planning Enabling Act instructs, gives directive to the planning commission to create and maintain. So we are going to have a seminar from the Michigan Municipal League come out and speak on this, train the committee on how to do it, walk through the steps. And at that meeting, they also suggested, let's have the council. So this is what's here for you. I included everything in here that I presented to the planning commission. There's a couple sample CIPs in here. They can be pretty detailed. So the dates are on here. You guys can,
I can do the 24th.
we can do it now, or we can do it through email, whatever you want to do.
I can do the 24th.
That's like the only one I could probably make fly.
We want to get as many people as possible.
Let me double check.
24th is a Tuesday.
October 24th.
Yes,
And
October
clarify,
24th.
yeah.
Okay, and like, I told the planning commission, I'm going to ask the MML that we're capable or allowed to video it, so anyone who does miss it then can watch the video. I just don't know their parameters on that, because it is a paid-for seminar that if we then just threw out there, then they don't, it's interactive anyways. So I can send out should I
Email?
send an event email? Everyone
Yeah.
can reply as to what date works best for them. And we'll get it back to the planning commission. We'll try to whittle it down to whatever date and time works best for the majority. I wanted to bring us all up to date on that. Thank you. Our village hall restoration. So basically, we have three things at the village hall. We have brickwork, windows, and a roof that need to be addressed. Currently, I only have enough quotes for the brickwork, which in my mind is one of the, it could go between the brickwork and the windows of which one could be first. The roof should come after the brickwork, as the top portion of the west-facing wall needs to be removed. So in doing the roof, it would be best to have that all done before you do the roof. I ran across some stuff on Friday when I was in the office. Our roofs were last done, the police was 96, no. The village hall was 96, and the police was 97, back when there was a storm. There's been maintenance in 03 and 13, but our roofs are almost 30 years old.
Yeah.
Which speaks to why the police had holes in it and needed to be redone. And I do have one quote from the contractor that did the previous work. Don't have any other at this point, so.
Paramount?
When are you?
So I'm
But right now,
waiting.
we're just working on these three estimates, right?
So for windows, I have one current quote. I have had two other vendors come out to look at it. I have a fourth that I'm gonna reach out to, but waiting to get the quotes back. At this time of year, I don't know that we can even address the windows. The one quote I do have back for the windows said, can't even be done till spring, their calendar's already full. So if we wanted to get it done, depending on who's available. But anyways, so we have our,
You met with these
Brickwork.
three people, Megan?
correct. There was a fourth, I just could not, he came, I feel it's unfortunate, he came out, looked at it, looked at the project, and then has not gotten me a quote back. I've reached out to him 2 times, and so there could have been a fourth, but there's not.
I like the J&S Masonry. I think they were the least expensive, and they were the only ones to apply the sealer for free when they were all done.
I think they were the middle, actually, right? Ram
Yeah.
came in at 32, 8, J&S came in at 41, but I saw that they were applying the sealer,
That's huge.
and replacing some
Oh, I
stuff
see.
inside
Yeah.
also.
Yes, the
Which I
inside
didn't know if that
needs
was
to
in
be
all of them.
replaced. No, so the lower half, there's 3 to 4 runs on the inside that are literally
Crumbling.
deteriorating.
It's true.
And based on what just happened at Eastern Market,
Yeah.
this is kind of critical.
Yeah.
Like a small
I did
thing
not
right in there.
catch what happened at
Oh.
Eastern Market.
The 3rd and 4th floor brick wall fell onto the city streets.
We're not quite there.
And now, the building is in such bad shape from that, they have to just.
That's
demo
wood.
it.
I'm not,
Oh, I
no,
didn't
wood.
know
we're
what
not
happened.
quite, we're not quite there yet.
How soon would work?
But
That just happened like this
Make
week,
sure that whomever is
Saturday
select-
morning.
They color the mortars, so.
Saturday morning.
it does
A lot of them talk about
it
that
does talk about
historic
that.
colored
It also,
mortar.
I've
Historically
learned
match.
from speaking with the contractors over time, it needs to be a proper mortar mix of what historical mortar, essentially. The mortar we have nowadays is a different hardness and consistency than older mortar. I guess I will try to pick out brick that, to the best of our ability, matches the other run behind it. I don't know, so that we don't have more mismatched brick, but it is what it is.
But based on meeting with these people, who did you feel,
Well, in all honesty, I have worked with, on a personal basis, I've worked with the Rochester Masonry Design. That's how they're in here, is I knew somebody, so I had, hey, I know
Did
you
they do
can
the
do a
work
good
on the
job.
house on 32?
Pardon me?
Did they do the work on the house on 32 or? the-
On my property?
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, they did a really good job.
So that's
saw
how
that.
I knew them, and that's where that,
That's huge. Nice work.
so that's how that quote
Very,
got here.
very nice.
and Ram, if I'm
Ram
not
was
mistaken, did
because-
the bank?
Because they did the bank, and I was
Yeah.
like, well, while you're here, we have a project. So I went out and then, J&S was a lawn sign that, was improperly put in a yard, and the police pulled it and threw it on the side of the building. I said, hey, I need that number. So I had that sign in my office there for a few weeks before to give him a call. And then actually, the 4th quote was literally, I was about to leave the office one evening, and he was waiting, backed up at the light, and so I pulled out my phone and snapped a shot of the
nice.
name of his business on the side of his truck. So all of these have just been serendipitous over time.
Do you have an estimated time frame of when this would start?
It depends on, again, at this point, when the contractors, their availability.
Well, we need to make sure it coincides with the roofers, it sounds
Well,
like.
the roof, I already
That'll
said,
come
we're
after.
waiting until spring on that. So that's gonna have to come after this. To me, this takes precedence.
Right.
I guess, a couple questions. One, what did we have budgeted for this part of the project? Or was there just a
We
total?
had, in our budget, we
I
had
know we approved some
village
stuff.
hall, or however you wanna call that,
Improvements?
Capital outlay.
35 grand. And that's
35
where,
grand.
that's where I told you guys last month.
That was for
That's
this year.
just,
And then
I don't even wanna tell you what's coming back for the roof and the windows.
seeing the dollar amount, should we formulate an RFP and send this out for a sealed bid because it's over our threshold?
If you wanna wait till next year, cause at that point, it's just not even gonna
Yeah,
happen.
that's
Yeah,
gonna
Yeah.
So that's your
postpone a
call.
lot.
I'd like to make
Do
a
I think the
motion.
building's falling down by next year? No.
No, I didn't think, I just
I'd like to make a
follow
motion that we
the policies.
hire J&S Masonry LLC to do the work.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Bartholomew, second by Edwards. Could you please call the roll?
So that's,
Not to exceed 41,000.
so discussion that
41,000.
over what we budgeted for this year.
It does seem like they're doing a little bit above and beyond.
And that's-
Bartholomew?
Yes.
Edwards?
We won't have to-
Yes.
Fowler?
No.
Care?
Yes.
Parker?
No.
Rousseau?
Did you want discussion? You can have discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it's already voting already, so we're in the middle of it, so there's no discussion.
Go ahead.
No.
President Poznanski?
I'm going to say no so that we can have discussion.
Okay, sorry. Yep. 4-3. Motion fails. Sorry, I went too, I thought somebody said call
I
the roll.
thought we'd been discussing it also.
Can,
Since we only have 35 in the capital outlay, Rams under that. And I know we're looking to do the roof, but we're gonna have to rebudget some more money to make a motion that we choose Ram Construction Services.
I would just caution of what is being offered on each one and the detail of what's being done. I don't feel that they're
Okay. I'll withdraw my
encompass as much.
Yeah, that's, it was,
And that you're gonna
nothing's
end up-
apples to apples, and
No.
that's what's tough, you know? We've got one for 41 that seems like they're doing a good job. I'm not, it seems like it's thorough, but it's obviously over what we budgeted. And being that everything is over our policy threshold for being a sealed bid process,
No, our policy is to get 3 quotes over a certain amount, and that's what I presented. I followed the policy.
I thought over 10,000, it's supposed to be a sealed bid process.
RFP or quote. RFQ, I've requested quotes. I do like, though, that JNS does address the sign. During one of the torrential downpours we had this year, this, coming in right there at the north side of the building, we have water dripping. So something is coming in through the front brick and dripping through the ceiling there at the, in the lobby.
The sign is nice, the interior brick is nice, and the sealer is
Yeah.
nice. I mean, it just seems to me the most thorough for the price. It's $6,000 over budget, but I think it's more than $6,000 thorough than our lowest option.
so Megan, is there a way to express to them that it's, you know, is there something we can do in 2 phases? Or is it all done at once, and can he do something to stay within our budget? Like, is there any kind of,
Yeah, I mean,
anything?
Budget amendments, that's what I talked, last meeting cautioning you guys, like,
And
these
I'm-
things are going to be, we didn't know how much it was gonna cost.
Right.
Even
This
at
type of work
budget,
is very
we threw out
expensive.
35 grand not
Right.
knowing. So we just threw that number out there.
Pretty good guess.
And that's what I'm thinking. I'm not opposed to a budget amendment, but I'm also thinking about the windows and the roof. So
Yeah.
my thought is, okay, we've
gonna
got to
happen
really
next
pace ourselves here.
Right, and we can work within our budget, you know, that if this is fall or not until spring, then our budget starts again July. So roof, we can work into our next budget. Or Clerk Trapp had the idea of we still have some ARPA funds that can be used for this type of thing.
Oh,
So
how
we could
much?
pull from that.
I'd
How
personally
much?
like to see apples to apples. and what's
Roughly
being
100
quoted.
grand left.
Mike Bombrinos from Redis.
Pardon me?
I would say about 75 grand left.
Organize what we want done. Like, the police department was not in any of the bids but mine, and that needs to be repaired too. That's why mine is higher. You know,
Yeah, if we could pull from ARPA funds, that'd be good. I mean,
So,
they're
hold
not
on,
gonna
Clerk
give you
Trapp
that.
says we have 75 grand of ARPA money, around.
Around,
I'm gonna
estimated,
quote her. If you guys want to do an RFP, go ahead.
Put out a scope of work.
But again, Clerk Trapp and neither I are masons. That's why I had them come out and look at it and quote what they thought needed to be done to the project. To ask Clerk Trapp to write an RFP for this, I wouldn't even know how to help her, because I don't know, this is not my area.
Would this be
So do we
something
want to
that-
hire a consultant to write this RFP?
Our building inspector? Who's gonna inspect it?
So if I understand something I just heard, Rochester Masonry also includes the police department, and the other 2 don't?
Well, if you read and compare.
He saw it needed work, so he said that he included that.
He gave us quotes.
I didn't see on here that it says police.
Well, it says PD.
Oh, it does say PD. On roof area above PD.
That's 1,000.
Oh, that, okay. Well, I don't know.
You know?
There's also
I missed
TP
that.
on here too, but,
Yeah.
ARPA funds.
TP on.
yeah.
I mean, it seems a big concern is apples to apples. It's unfair to compare a quote that includes the police department, one that includes a sign, one that includes a sealer, so.
We gotta do a scope.
As much as we'd like to rush it, because it is very, very important, yeah, I guess apples to apples is the best way to.
Could I also ask that then in the process, we also put RFPs out for the windows and the roof so that then I don't take time? This has taken 6 months to get you these 3 quotes. Don't take our time, don't take the people that came out and quoted it time. Let's just say we want RFPs for all of them.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And who's gonna write them?
I will write this with the help of our building inspector and give it to our clerk.
Where do you want them posted?
You put it out, I'll give you the information, you can write it up, put it on village letterhead and put it out.
We can ask, I know, going back
That way it's compared
into the
to-
archives, we did have a company create, their job was to come out, look at the project and tell us what needed to be done. But again, that's a contractor. So I don't know that if we want that.
Are you comfortable that Mr. Bomarito will do that task?
Yeah, I think the information what we have here, plus Mr. Bomarino, we can put it together and have it.
Can we set a deadline
For
for you to
all-
get that?
Are you saying for all
It'll be
3?
before next week.
For
I mean, next
next month's meeting.
Yeah.
All 3?
RFP for all three.
You talking about the windows and doors too?
Windows and
Windows?
roofing.
Windows, roof, and brick.
Sure. How's that sound? Can do.
Can do it.
Can do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving into our creation of the PILAP committee, this was a suggestion of Clerk Trapp. Upon coming into office and sitting in on some of our pre-planning meetings, I've had to bring up on a few different occasions our payment in lieu of parking fee, which we made the ordinance, or the ordinance has been made for a very long time. We put a dollar amount to it recently. It has yet to be enforced. So as I continue to bring it up, it is turning people away, potentially. So Clerk Trapp wanted to, her idea was let's make a committee, pull people from different areas, one from our board, maybe a DDA member, a central business district owner, and the clerk to head it up to, when it comes to the table, they look at it. Go ahead, I mean, it's your idea.
Right, well, and I put in here like the history that like the original ordinance was, I believe, 2001. Again, I don't know what the enforcement history was prior to me taking office. And then recently, there's the meeting minutes showing that the ordinance was updated and with the motion to attach a fee. But that's where the board left it. There was no further direction as to, do we do it to all the business owners? Do we, are they now all have to pay, even if some of these businesses have been here 40 years, do we do it only to the new ones? What kind of process is it? Is it a zoning process? Is it a building department process? Is it an application? Do they get approved? There's a lot of questions here that, for me, my area is, permitting and ordinance type issues like that. So, but there's a lot of details that need to be put together and discussed with this to go forward with the businesses. And just I have a lot of questions before I can even start to put together a permit, if that's the directive. Like I said, it was voted on, and then there was no other directive.
Mark, could you weigh in on this? Ordinance was put in place to collect a fee.
It was, and originally, I don't believe there was a fee designated.
There was an
I think
ordinance, but no fee.
I think your ordinance, and we can look at it, I have my ordinance book, but I think your ordinance provided for a payment in lieu of having the requisite number of parking spaces without identifying the amount, and then that amount, based on a recommendation from your engineer, was set at, I believe, 10,500
Yes.
per needed parking space. And so that's your point of reference. You do have in your existing ordinance, I believe, in your existing zoning ordinance, the required
parking. I think that's part of your package, if I'm not mistaken. And it shows the number of spaces dependent on the use. I don't think that you can, I don't think you can apply this retroactively. I think you have to do it going forward only, so I don't think you can, and I wouldn't recommend you knock on doors of the building owners that exist now that may be short of parking spaces and ask them to start writing you checks. I think that's wholly unenforceable, and it's not gonna contribute to the general welfare of the community.
Is that like, from today forward, or from when this dollar amount was established?
Well, from
moving forward?
your ordinances are always enforceable, and so arguably, when the
February 22nd of 2022?
when the determination of the amount was made, when people applied for building permits or zoning compliance, whatever that process is, that it could have been enforced from that point going forward, and certainly it can be enforced now. It's on the books, it's enforceable now for any new uses. Again, you just can't go back.
Right, because some of the discussion we've had in the village office is, there's businesses that have expanded their seating within their own footprint, and did they acquire any more parking spaces? And so we've gone back and forth of, well, but it's not a new business, but they expanded their seating capacity. And
But I think it's
at
still
what
based
point-
on the
at what
square
point do you
footage of the
say-
building, right? Not just how many seats you have?
it's all, there's a whole, if this would continue, there's a whole,
Okay, so there's more.
Which is why we need a committee.
and at that point I go, okay, well, I know that the business was in the works of redoing it. Does it mean that from the time that they pulled their first permit, like,
Right.
do they fall in it or do they not? We clearly know that new places coming in and changing hands, this would go forward. So we've just had discussion of who does it apply to?
Right, I just have a lot of questions before I believe an official permitting process can be enforced.
So I make the motion that we create this pileup committee with a board member from the trustees and however it was outlined.
Do we need a committee or just an interpretation to answer your questions?
That's what I mean, it sounds like everything's pretty defined, and if it's.
Well, but then, I know it's.
Mark, do you feel that this is, can this be clarified to how and when and what is enforceable? Based on what we have, or do we need more information?
Well, you apply the law to the facts, and so you have an ordinance in place, and you apply the ordinance to anybody that walks in the door that fits within that ordinance. Can the ordinance be tightened up? I would imagine, I think probably any ordinance can. So I don't really know how to answer that question. Could it be more specific in some areas? Probably. I'd have to go through it. And I'm not involved in the permitting process. I don't know, and I shouldn't. I'm not saying I shouldn't know, but I shouldn't be involved with the day-to-day workings in the village office. That's not my role, and I don't insinuate myself into what happens in the village office. So
Understandable.
Well, in general, most of this would go before the planning commission, and it would be brought up at that point also. So it's not necessarily, doesn't have to be just a walk-in-the-door permit from the clerk either, because it's going to be some sort of, we had a business potential to turn over and they wanted to increase the capacity. That's obvious. That was at a pre-planning meeting, okay, and then that would come before planning also. Something I would like to see tightened up, though, is a time frame. I remember when we talked about this, we said, well, maybe they don't have to pay it all up front. We'll let them do it in increments. And I remember saying, okay, so what happens if they close in 3 years, they don't actually make it, and they never paid it in full, and they leave before paying it? Or what does it mean to pay it in increments? give a percent or give an amount per year, because is this dollar enough to say that I'm paying towards this?
Makes sense.
I would like us to tighten that part up
Yeah.
for sure.
I think what would help,
What's the money for? If you're not-
More parking.
But you're not putting it, is it gonna be put in a
So when
fund?
another house unfortunately blows up and something becomes available, then we have a chunk of money to say,
So
we
you
want
said
that.
You want a special fund just for that?
Yeah, the
Yes.
Central Business District
And the
Parking Fund
maintenance.
shall be used for purchasing land and developing consolidated parking
Right.
spaces in the
So
Central
when
Business
the
District.
rustic
Point
bluebird
of order, please.
home was available, I'm sorry, we don't take questions.
so Catherine,
Yes.
do you have a list of questions? Because it seems to me like if you have a list of questions, we can answer them and then tighten up the ordinance. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the list in front of me, but I have
Yeah.
more, not so much questions about the ordinance, it's the permitting process. How are we going to approach this? What are we expecting? What do the business owners have to produce to us? Do they have to produce to us a survey? Do they have to prove that they have spots? What is their square footage? Do we need a site plan? I have way too many questions about the technicalities of the permitting process. That's why I'm welcome, that's why, I'm not concerned about the ordinance. The ordinance is what it
Okay,
is.
that's
But I
what
need
I
to know, how are we
understand.
going to enforce this and what is required of the village to review this process, to make the determination of the price, and then ask for the dollar amount.
Yeah.
So say a business
Okay.
isn't turning over, they're just expanding, who do they go to? Like, who's gonna
And
be?
then, because another
Or
concern is,
planning.
we see businesses saying, parking for such and such only. Well, you didn't pay for that spot. You can't have that sign.
Right.
And some businesses have a lot of signs, some have none. I'm like, there's a whole bunch of items that I would like to see being reviewed pertaining to this ordinance and the permitting process.
Okay, thank you.
Right, and
I
if
mean,
we.
I understand what DDA would be on here, but should, you just questioned a lot with the planning, should there be someone from planning included with this?
Yeah.
Could see that.
I mean, these were just suggestions,
Yeah, no,
because I think to
that's-
broaden the committee,
Throwing
to
it
have
out
a,
there.
Well, in the DDA, because it's generally in their district,
Well,
is
CBD,
usually
yeah.
when these things come up.
I would like to add in the fourth or fifth paragraph, when it mentions that this fund shall be used for purchasing land and developing consolidated parking spaces in the Central Business
What page?
District.
Oh, okay.
Just that first page and point
Yeah.
7, the second paragraph. I guess more of a personal point. Yeah, if unfortunately a property blows up, we can purchase that. That's awesome to have that fund to be able to purchase that. I also think if we look at the problem this is addressing is we're forcing people to park in the village streets and commute to the businesses they're trying to visit. I think that should also include sidewalks and crosswalks and street signs and crossing signs, because that's why they're walking, because they have to park further away. Anyway, we have a lot of sidewalk issues and not a lot of money. They're using the sidewalks to get to the businesses because they can't park in front of them. So I think that'd be a nice opportunity to gain some money to put into stuff like that.
So how about just infrastructure, parking and? what-
Yeah, I'd
you know,
hate to be collecting
community
a parking
infrastructure.
in lieu of fund. It should be being built up to acquire property or maybe a parking structure at some point and use that for something else.
I mean, we have crippling sidewalks in the Central Business District.
And
They're walking because they can't park close. So I'm just saying if there's an opportunity to maybe have that be a little broadened, it's benefiting the traffic, whether it's foot or vehicle in the Central
I think
Business
we could
District.
address that with the budget in the future or look at a project for the sidewalks.
Well, at our last budget meetings, I had asked if we were gonna continue with the residential sidewalks, and, the answer was, we're gonna use that money for downtown sidewalks that we own, which would go right to your point. Because we were given $50,000 towards the residential. This year would be a good year to do, well, maybe not this year, but, because do have a lot of public sidewalks that we own that are,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not,
Atrocious.
my question wasn't directly related to this specific
I can see
subcommittee,
I can
but
see what you're saying, but at the same time, yes, we're trying to solve this problem, and by expanding it, it kind of detracts from our parking
Yeah.
issue. Not that what you're saying doesn't also need to be addressed.
yeah, okay.
I agree.
so do we want to form the committee?
I think it's a good idea.
I have that motion on the table, or we could talk about it all night long.
I'll support the motion.
thank you.
With the addition of a planning commission member?
You think so? Is that your motion?
Yes, my motion was to form this committee.
Who on
With, like
this,
she said, one from the board here,
Committee
Who on
with,
this
with members
board?
from,
planning, zoning, a
Zoning.
business owner, and a board member.
and DDA.
Sure.
And the clerk. I think the clerk needs
clerk
to
was
give
optional,
input.
I
'cause
think.
I'm
she's-
optional, I don't have to be there.
well,
Sounds like she should.
Yeah.
She
Sorry.
should, yeah.
Yeah.
She's doing the permitting.
Yeah.
She needs to have input. Yeah.
So DDA, Board of Trustees, Central Business District owner, village clerk, and a planning commission member.
5 people.
Do we want this to be a
Could I
subcommittee?
volunteer and serve
Be
as
both?
2 of them? The planning and board of trustees?
I
I
don't,
can bring it to planning and bring it back
Kill
to,
two birds with one stone?
unless someone else wants
I
to.
wanted to be a board member. as
Well,
far as-
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, since you brought it
Or
up.
committee member.
Talk about it.
Yeah, I still support that motion with those 5
Yeah.
individuals.
okay. We have a motion by Bartholomew, support by Care.
Mine would have to go.
On a roll call or all in favor?
You just
Okay.
do, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, thank you. Any opposed? None opposed to the committee creation?
Motion.
Am I adding that to our subcommittee committee reports? Is that where you want to all see that?
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay.
I mean, can we call it a task force, though, just because it encompasses multiple boards?
No.
Just sounds better to me.
Um,
Some humor at the end of the night, sorry. It wasn't funny.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Care, second by Fowler, all in favor? Aye. And it's 9:26.